Hello, my name is Cinder, and this is a follow-up video from my previous AI video. I'm doing some different things with my audio setup, so hopefully it sounds a lot better this time. I've actually made a great deal of progress, and I think maybe 2 weeks since I made that video, maybe a little bit less. I'd really like to show you guys the practical solution that I had to what I laid out previously and how things have changed. And I also think that actually doing these a little bit more frequently will make the videos a lot shorter and a lot more easy to digest, which hopefully is true. We'll find out by the end of this video, I suppose. First, I want to start with a brief overview of what inheritance is. So inheritance is pretty much just when you take a script and put a bunch of variables or functions in it and then let another script borrow all of those variables and functions and actually implement them. And what this lets you do is it lets you have multiple things inheriting from the same parent script and allows things to be organized more easily and more effective. That's why it's actually useful. As far as why it's a nightmare, it's because you can't really be looking at your base script and then your inherited script, like the secondary script that inherits from it. You can't really see all of those original things while you're actually working on the inherited script, which can make things a little bit slower and harder to keep track of in its own way, even though structurally it is superior for things like video games, and you aren't as limited in what you're able to do and like how many AI you're allowed to have on the screen, that kind of thing, without it becoming very hard to manage. So this is what I'm calling System Overview Practical. All NPCs right now have 4 parts to them. They have a schedule. This tells them when to do what. They have a data sheet. This is filled with everything you need to make a character exist in the game, things like movement speed. They have a finite state machine. This is a organization and implementation of the different states a character can be in. And then they have a personality. This is what makes them interact with other game systems in a way that is completely unique to them. Of these things, I have the schedule, the base data sheet, and the finite state machine implemented in at least some capacity, and the personality is the last step and also by far the least important, because all it does is modify what you already have laid out. All environments for AI have 2 main parts to them. They have rooms. These are chunks of the environment where there are things for the AI to do. Then they have tasks. These are interaction points that either have the AI do an action or allow them to meet a need that they have. Again, these are implemented in a basic way, and now I get to actually show you them. Essentially what you're seeing is the AI is in its routine state, which means that it's looking to meet its schedule. And its schedule right now is completely set to free needs, which means that the AI is allowed to just choose whatever need it wants to meet at that moment, and it will prioritize certain needs over other ones based on personality, like when their limits are, when they need to eat food. It'll be different for each individual AI. And so these chunks of time in the schedule are going to be met by the AI as opposed to me telling it when it's supposed to be doing something specific. So right now it's just finding the nearest room, and it's pathing over to that to meet a need that it has. And once it's within that room, there are 3 tasks within the room, each of them taking a different amount of time to complete. And it is simply going to one of the tasks, completing that task. And completing a task, as I said, it can either be an action, so this could mean that she goes and rests her arm on a bar and just relaxes for a couple minutes, or it could mean that she goes down, sits at a table, and eats food, and then that will actually have a numeric change to her needs. And finally, there's just a third one that is just one more thing for me to test the limits of this to make sure that it's truly procedural, because I had this going between 2 points, and then once she does 1 point, she goes to the other. And I just wanted to make sure that if I add more points, which are essentially just game objects, game transforms in space, that she will continue to find them within the space. So the way this is going to work when I implement a little bit more of the actual decision making for the AI, for them actually selecting which need they want to have met at that time, is she's going to find a room that she knows has something like food in it, and then she will go there to meet that need. And when she's in the room, she'll look at the tasks and try to find the appropriate task to meet her need. And for something like entertainment, this could be they go into a room and then they would just select based on their character's preference whether or not they want to play poker, or whether or not they just want to drink at the bar for like downtime, basically. Or alternatively, if in their schedule I gave them no time when they're supposed to eat and they realize that they're really hungry after 20 hours of not eating, they'll go and meet that need as well in a free chunk of time. And so right now I'm basically just focusing on the procedural AI, which I talked about before, which means that they'll just make their own decisions and they'll do their own thing at their own pace. And the reason for that is that this is going to be the hardest part by far to actually implement. And once I have this completed, adding the scheduled routine is going to be infinitely more easy, because all it's going to do is basically limit the completely procedural routines. And that's going to make the characters have more predictable patterns and make it easier on the player. So that's my systems overview, in parentheses practical, that I have been working on in the last couple weeks. And in 2 more weeks, I'm actually going to make a video where I actually show the scripts, do a small update about what I've talked about here if I change anything and like the progress I've had there. And I'll go into more detail about what each of the scripts are actually doing and how they interact. Alright guys, bye.